Hi, and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about mythology while doing my makeup. Today I'm going to be talking about Icarus and the sun. It's a very well-known Greek myth. A lot of people know it. There's a lot of amazing art in the world inspired by it, and I just thought it would be fun to do my makeup and talk about a Greek myth. Everything I use I'll link down below in the description box, and I hope you enjoy. Please don't come for me with pronunciations. I'll try my best. Leave it at that. So before we can even talk about Icarus himself, we have to build the story, set the scene, which is going to take us to Athens. There was a up-and-coming craftsman named Daedalus. There's an up-and-coming craftsman named Daedalus. He was told to be very talented and kind of ahead of his time in terms of what he was coming up with, which of course, made him feel almighty and like, oh, I'm the best, I'm the only one, no one's as good as me. So he took on a apprentice named Talus, and some people say it was his nephew. Some people just say he was an apprentice. Either way, he worked with Daedalus in Athens. Well, it said that he was also very talented, which made Daedalus very jealous and overcome with fear or, scared that he was no longer going to be relevant. So as you do, you take your apprentice on a nice hike. You're going up to see the ocean from a cliffside, talk about the weather, talk about the newest, hoists and jigs and other craftsman-y type discussions. Well, when they get up there, he throws him off the side of the cliff. He's like, sorry, no, there can only be one. Goes over. After doing so, obviously he went on trial and he was found guilty, so he fled. He fled to an island, I believe, called Crete, where he started a new life. He got in with the local king of the area, King Minos, and the king had him basically, build some stuff around the kingdom, see what was up, discovered how talented he was. So as he's building his new life, getting away from that murder rap, of course he meets a girl, they fall in love, they have a kid, that kid, Icarus. Well, where am I going? So he has Icarus, but in the meantime, he's still doing things for the king, King Minos. Well, King Minos' wife, Pasiphae, was cursed by Poseidon. He basically made her fall in love with the king's most prized bull. Why? It's a Greek myth. We're never really gonna know why. So she falls in love with this bull, and she's like, I have to bang him. I have to bang this bull. It's the love of my life. Well, it's a weird thing to want to do. Bestiality, not normally okay, but for some reason in Greek mythology, it's like, it happens. So she goes to Daedalus and she's like, build me a furry costume. Build me a cow thing. Build me a cow skin? That sounds really gross. Cow costume. Build me a cow costume that I can use to trick this bull into banging me. So he does it, and it works. This bull bangs her in this cow costume. It's gross. Anyway, so then the king's wife has a baby, and she gives birth to the creature known as the Minotaur. And the Minotaur has his own story and his own like crazy background, and hopefully I'll get to do a little thing on that later. Well, the king didn't want anybody to know about this, and I mean like understandably. So he goes to Daedalus and he's like, look bro, you're responsible for this. You helped her get knocked up by a bull. No one can see this abomination. Build me something that he cannot escape. Basically, build me a jail. Well, Daedalus had a better idea. He didn't want to build a jail that the Minotaur could eventually break out of. He decided to build an unbeatable labyrinth. And it was said that people would go into this labyrinth and never come back out. It was just too complicated. It was the perfect labyrinth. And the king is like, yes, this labyrinth is the bomb. It's so great. Thank you. We're going to lock up this creature thingy in here. And then he's like, twist, bro. You and your family are also going to be locked up. Now, some people say that he locked them in the maze labyrinth, and others say that he was locked in a tower. He and Icarus were locked in a tower. From the research I've done, more sources say that he locked them in a tower. But there are a few that say they got locked in the maze. So they're there, chilling in the tower, contemplating how they're gonna get out. Or should they just resign to their fate and, you know, die there? Which is very morbid to think about, but it's Greek mythology. So they're chilling in this tower, and Daedalus is not about it. He wants to go. He wants his own life back. He doesn't want to be in this tower. You know, he beat a murder rep. He's feeling good about himself. So he starts to collect the feathers of birds that pass by overhead. Easy to do if you're in a tower. They fly by, their feathers pop off. Anyway, so he decides he's going to collect these feathers. So he's collecting these feathers, and I'm assuming that there are candles on this tower, because basically what he does is he rigs a set of wings for himself out of feathers and wax and what I can only assume would also be wood. And he builds 2 pairs of these. He decides that, you know, his son is young, shouldn't be locked away either. So he constructs a pair of wings, one for his son and one for him, so that they can escape. Now, I couldn't really get an exact age on Icarus. Some say he was younger, some say he was older. Couldn't really find like an exact age. I'm just gonna go with that he was a teenager. So they're getting ready to go. You know, fly away, live their life away from this tower, from the Minotaur, from everything. They're gonna leave Crete, they're gonna go do their own thing. Now, Daedalus warns his son. He's like, hey, these wings are, you know, not the best. They're what we got. You know, I worked with what I had, basically. And you don't want to fly too close to the sun, because if you do that, the wax is gonna melt and your wings are gonna fall apart and you're gonna die. You know, kind of like the sex ed teacher in Mean Girls, all avenues end in death. So then he also warns him, that being said, you don't want to fly too low to the ocean. If you do that, if you fly too close to the ocean, the salt water is going to weigh down the wings and you'll fall and drown. So get too close to the sun, you die. Get too close to the ocean, you die. He tells him to stick to the middle path. Stick to in between the 2 elements. Follow the wind, you'll be good. So they strap on their wings and they decide, today's the day. We're leaving this joint. Busting out. So they jump off the tower. They have no idea if these wings are going to work. They just decide, leap of faith, jumping off the tower. I wouldn't be able to do it, personally. Because, like, what if they broke? What if your weight was too heavy for the wings and it just broke and you plummeted to your death? Like, that would be horrifying. So, they're flying along, and everyone down below is just, like, awestruck. They've never seen people fly before. The gift of flight was for the gods, and the gods only. Like, you're not allowed to fly. So they're watching in amazement. And of course, this is getting to Icarus's head. He's like, yeah, I'm awesome. I'm flying. Look at me. So his ego is getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. So he decides he's gonna, like, you know, show off a little bit. Be a little like, hey girls, look at me. Flying through the sky. So he decides, you know, I'm gonna keep going higher. I love this feeling. Everyone's staring at me. I look so good. Don't I, Dad? He's just flying higher and higher. Getting closer and closer to the sun. And of course, the wax on his wings start to melt. And of course, all his dad can do is sit back and watch in horror as his son plummets to his death or plummets to a watery grave, because he could not get over the fact that he was looking good. You know, his ego definitely got in the way there a bit, I'd say. So Icarus is dead. Now, what the myth means is always going to be up for debate, no matter what myth you're talking about. So for this one, a lot of people look at it in terms of balance. If you fly too high, you know, you're going to melt your wings, and that's going to be it. You're going to fall to your death. If you soar too low, you're going to get in the water, and you guessed it, you're going to die. So a lot of people look at this story as, you know, a way to check your balance, right? If you are doing something in life that maybe is too risky, is it worth it? Is it worth the fall? Is it worth getting hurt over? I feel like as humans, we're always looking for balance in our lives, and I might be wrong. I might just be looking for balance, but you never know. Another interpretation of what this myth means is don't seek instant gratification. I feel like that's a silly thing to be talking about on YouTube of all places. But the idea of not seeking instant gratification, you know, Icarus fell to his death because people were cheering and praising them and looking at them, and it was, you know, he felt like a god. And one thing you want to learn about Greek myths is never, ever, ever test the gods. Like, don't let them fall for you. Don't pretend to be them. They don't like it. They're very vengeful. And so he sought that instant gratification, and that ultimately is what did him in. You know, life is definitely more about the lasting moments versus the right away, snap moment, snap judgment, whatever. A lot of people also think that Icarus's death is finally Daelus's punishment. You know, he on multiple occasions made the wrong choice and got away with it. So his ultimate payment was to sit there and watch his son die. He couldn't do anything. He warned his son. He was like, hey, don't do that. And of course, like any kid, when your parent says not to do something, the first thing you do is do that thing. Or maybe I'm just a bad child. Anyway, so he ended up having to pay for all of his actions in the end, whether, you know, it's the way we thought it would play out versus the way it did play out. But the myth could just be a story. It doesn't have to have a meaning, but we're human and we always look for the meaning in things, whether there is one or not. Just like in art class when they talk about, you know, oh, there's a cat next to her on the bed, that's a symbol of fertility, and or it's a symbol that she's, you know, mischievous or whatever. And it's like, what if she just owned a cat and she wanted that cat to be in her portrait? Because I would do something like that. That's a whole different tangent for another day. Oh, I forgot concealer. Oh well. It's just makeup, it's okay. There are a lot of people who are inspired by this story. I know when I was in school, my final project was on this myth, Icarus and the sun. There's a great artist on Instagram, I'll link his stuff below, who is writing an entire comic book series based off this myth too. It's beautiful. He turns the sun basically into a girl that, you know, our man Icarus just has to have, even though it's gonna burn him. Definitely didn't write enough. I have more faith than I do have myth at the moment. So I was kind of inspired by the artist on Instagram that I was talking about for my eye look today. He definitely uses the monochromes of each character to pull the story forward. The sun, of course, being this beautiful gold and orange, and Icarus kind of being like gray melted wax almost. I sprayed it outward and not on my face. Awkward. So that is it for Icarus and the sun. You want to make sure you don't seek instant gratification. Listen to your parents. Don't help a lady get pregnant from a bull, because that's just weird. Yeah, so that's it. I hopefully will do more myths. If there's a myth that you love and you want to know about and you want to watch me do stuff to my face in a non-gross, creepy way that I made that sound, let me know in the comments, the two of you who are out there. Like I said, hopefully get to do this some more. Yes, there is a myth on my fan as well. Maybe one day I'll talk about that. But for now, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and have a great day.